All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Sunday stream on Drums and Drams. It's been a while since I've done one of these. So I actually like doing Sundays quite a bit. You know, sometimes during the week, a weeknight is not the best time to do a stream. Sometimes the weekend is a lot easier and a little bit earlier in the day, actually. So anyways, it's warm outside. I hope you guys are all doing really well. I'm gearing up for a busy week ahead, but I'm feeling pretty upbeat, So I'm excited for today. We've got a lot of whiskey to taste. Let me go through just a couple of very quick, announcements or whatever, and we'll get right to it. No giveaway for this stream. This is kind of a casual hang. Just doing some side-by-sides. And I don't know if we're even going to make it through all this whiskey because there's so much of it. But hit that like button if you're hanging out. Let's get some more people in here. I know it's not the usual time, but, let's get some more people hanging out, and the like will definitely help that. What is up, Jay? Good to see you, and good to see Lido as well. Top Dog also. Cheers all watching on the TV with friends, non-bourbon drinkers. All right. Well, you're going to have to convert them. But, I think one thing that's funny about these streams or bourbon videos in general, it's something that I find with like wine stuff or watching coffee. It's like I'm not a big wine person or a big coffee person, but when there's passion behind something and a community built around it, I think it's kind of accessible for just about anyone as long as we're not snobbish about it. So that's kind of what I like about whiskey, is that it can be pretty open and accessible to a lot of people, and hopefully convert some of them, for the right reasons, not because, we're trying to encourage insane alcohol consumption, which a lot of us, have to be careful of. But anyways, cheers, guys. Thanks for hanging out this Sunday afternoon. I'm sipping as usual. I'm starting off with a little Eagle Rare store pick here. So cheers. Yeah. Let me know if you got anything in your glass. I just got a new Eagle Rare store pick, and this one's really funky, almost scotchy, almost industrial. And I was drinking some Octomore last night and some Springbank. This, for some reason, is reminding me of that, a little bit of that industrial quality. So, guys, what's coming up this week? I believe Tuesday is going to be the next episode of the Weekly Dram. It looks to me like episode 3 is just going to be a bunch of new releases, highlighting labels that have been approved, things that we're seeing pop up from distilleries, announcements, press releases. Not a lot of like other news besides that, maybe one or two things, but it's just going to be probably rapid fire new releases. I was kind of waiting around to see, is there going to be anything big that I can cover this week? That seems to be pretty much it. So we've got that probably dropping on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we've got a live stream. I'm going to be doing a blind flight head-to-head challenge with Trev, the Bourbon Wrench. Amy Bohm was kind enough to send us some blind pours. So that's what we're going to be doing on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the normal live stream time. If you're just coming in, guys, I see the numbers fluctuating a little bit. Hit that like button on your way in. Let's get some more people in here to hang out on this Sunday afternoon. And let me know if you're sipping on anything, if you got anything in your glass. All right. So I was thinking, like, am I going to do a live stream this past Thursday? A lot of bottles that were on their way didn't quite make it. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to do a Thursday, Sunday, and then another Thursday live. So I canceled the Thursday live in hopes that a lot of these bottles were going to get here, and they did. So that's why we're doing this Sunday stream. So let me talk you through what we're going to be tasting today and kind of how this is going to go. So we're going to start with the lowest proof, kind of move on up. First thing we're going to do, some of the patrons have already seen me talk about this. We're going to taste the new label 1910 as a point of comparison with the new 1910 extra old release in the Old Forester 117 series. All right, so this is going to be the first thing because this is 93 proof. So we're going to start there. I know you can see some banger bottles on the table. We're going to get to those. Next thing I'm going to taste, I believe, let me make sure. Yeah, the next thing I'm going to taste will be some Armagnac finished bourbons. All right. Yes, they are both bourbons. First up, the real kind of star of the show, the thing that I've been most curious about, is this J. Henry & Sons Flamme. This is a Nancy Fraley collaboration that J. Henry put together. So, her expertise in Armagnac, cask finishing, cigar blend, all that stuff. That's going to all come together in this bottle. So you can see I've already had a couple of pours of this. I'm going to taste this, and I wanted a point of comparison to another young Armagnac finished bourbon. So my point of comparison is this Starlight Armagnac finish. It's the closest thing I could find besides besides the Yellowstone 2020 limited edition, and I'm not pulling that piece of shit back out. Okay, so that's this number 2, the second comparison, and also the tater sticker on the back of the Starlight is The Office, which is great. I think Sarah's in there watching The Office right now. The next thing I'm going to taste through is going to be the new Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, spelled without an E because it's makers on the label, I assume. The Blind Speaks. This is their new pick. I'm not the biggest makers expert, nor am I the biggest makers fan, though I'm finding more and more to like in these things. But I figured let's have a point of reference. So that comparison is going to be up against the FAEO2. Again, a lot of this is just to start to draw some conclusions about these things based on similar whiskeys, things that are similar in age, proof profile, age, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do that maker's comparison, and then we're going to get into some heavier stuff. And at this point, I'm hoping that I'm not feeling it too much. If so, we might cut some of these out. But I promise we're going to get to the first tasting, guys. If you're coming on in here, just going over what we're going to be tasting today. So hit that like button. We'll get there in a couple minutes. The star of the show for the light whiskey today is going to be this new Penelope Founders Reserve American Light Whiskey. This is a single barrel. Okay, so I figured since it's a single barrel, let's taste it up against this single barrel light whiskey. Very similar in age and proof. I wanted to see, especially because I'm not a light whiskey connoisseur, kind of what the differences are. I don't know that I've ever done a side-by-side of light whiskeys. Finally, I have the new Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch A122. I have C921 for that comparison. But the heavy hitter comparison at the end of the stream is going to be this 2021 King of Kentucky, which I splurged on, about a month ago, up against this, which just arrived. And this is an incredible freaking bottle. I've, in 2 days, done some serious damage on this thing. I also poured some samples. This is the Lucky 7 14-year proprietor, barrel number 72. The same barrel that Breaking Bourbon reviewed, gave a crazy rating to. I got a case of these, and I'm so glad I did. This stuff is insane, but I'm curious to review it a little more in depth as opposed to just drinking it for enjoyment. And then I'll put it up against another 14-year bottle of a similar proof and see how it does. It might not compare at all, but it might be pretty close. I have no idea. All right. Cheers, guys. I see a lot more people in here after my big tirade there, my spiel. So cheers if you're just now coming in. Hit that like button. Let me know if you're sipping on something this Sunday afternoon, late afternoon. We're almost to dinner time. So cheers, guys. The Sue says, I've got a store pick of that Triple Down light whiskey. This is from Backbone. Very delicious. Look, I'm a big fan of Backbone. This is a bourbon finds pick, and so is the other one that I'm comparing. This Penelope is a bourbon finds pick. So same person picking the barrels, same stocks of light whiskey, presumably, all that old Seagram stuff. So Lito says, recently got my hands on a 15-year Spanish single malt, aged in Oloroso casks. Interesting. How is that, Lito? And he says the Oloroso cask is not a seasoned one. They actually use the bottom barrel from the Solera system. That's good news. I'm sure that's hopefully of a higher quality. You never know, but hopefully that's, a little bit more integrated and full-bodied. I feel like some of these finished scotches, finished anything, it can just feel like you're slapping a Band-Aid on top of what is just an okay whiskey. Okay, guys. So let's get to it now. Let's get to our first tasting. And, I was just going to taste all of these by themselves. But once I started to realize, I'm not a light whiskey expert. I'm not a maker's expert. I better put these things next to something something else in the category to see what I can figure out. So let's start now with the Old Forester 1910 Extra Old side by side. So this will be the regular, or the new label, I should say, and now the Extra Old. Wow. The Extra Old smells really good off the neck of the bottle. Hey, Sugar Kitty, I think I saw you in here. And Amy and Hendo, if Hendo shows up, you guys' stuff is shipped. It's in the mail or going out today, I guess, which would be tomorrow because today's Sunday and I don't think they're doing anything. I think it ships out tomorrow, basically. But that stuff is ready to go. I'm so sorry it took me so long, but some good samples coming your way, prizes from that stream a couple of weeks ago. Okay, Bourbon Junkies, Dan and Sean said that the new label 1910 is better than the old label. I agree. Not going to do that comparison today. So I went and picked one of these up. And now let's start with that and then go on to the 1910 Extra Old. All right, let's get this put over here. Hand delivery, says Sugar Kitty. Yes, yes it is. Paw delivery, right? Wow. So I've said this for months and months now. I was never the biggest Brown-Forman fan. Suddenly I love just about everything Brown-Forman right now. I don't know why. I don't know what changed. I think tasting this made me realize what we're leaning towards, what the goal is for Brown-Forman, and now I can't get enough. This 1910 is really, really nice and dark, much different than the old label 1910. Yeah, I'm almost getting like a candy corn note, dark chocolate, marshmallow. Yeah, not kind of like something kind of carbonic, I guess, like that burnt marshmallow. There's actually a decent amount of citrus in this glass, and I think that's kind of playing into that candy corn note. It's like this candy corn, but also orange citrus in here that I don't recall really getting from a lot of Brown-Forman stuff. Maybe I'm crazy. But yeah, that s'mores, campfire, all of that is there. But I do find this to be a little darker and a little bit drier than the old label, which I want. The old label was sickly, bright, kind of runts candy sweet, and this is not that at all. Cheers, guys. Nancy, what's up? Guys, Nancy and I are talking about doing a live stream together early April. Not confirmed yet, so I'm not going to throw out a date. But early April, one of those Thursdays. Yeah, tentative right now, but super excited. It's good to see you jumping in, Nancy. Yes, I do have a bottle of your creation with J. Henry and Sons. Yeah, we're going to be tasting this next. First, we're doing this 1910 comparison with the new extra old version. And then I'm going to move on to this up against a Starlight Armagnac finish with some similar stats, similar age, similar proof. But I wanted a point of comparison for this Flamme because, it's a young Armagnac finish bourbon is kind of a new thing in the industry. There's only been a few of them, it seems like. Most of it, people are using much older bourbon in these casks. So I'll be curious to see what it's like. But anyways, good to see you, Nancy. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good weekend. All right, guys, let me have one more sip of this 1910. Really, really great mouthfeel, nice and syrupy. And the spice actually, yeah, there's a great kind of development of that spice alongside the syrupy quality you would expect from a double oaked bourbon like this with this amount of sweetness. They're not totally integrated. It feels like it needs to be older for all of the components in here on the palate to kind of come together and have a more cohesive palate experience. But for a $55 bottle, $60 bottle that's available just about anywhere you go, much better than the previous version. And, you know, I would love to try this up against maybe like a Cooper's Craft 100 and see what those differences are like. But let's move on now, using that as our comparison point to this 1910 Extra Old, which right away, color-wise, pretty, well, yeah, I would say it's, you know, kind of one step darker than this sort of original bottling. Yeah, what stands out immediately on the nose is an extra sort of prune note. This really dark fruit quality that's in here. It's not particularly juicy. It's kind of dry on the dark fruit. But yeah, I'm thinking prune, cranberry, kind of fig. You know, it's not this juicy, rich plum thing or grape or that kind of, you know, quality that you might expect from a Stag Junior, E.H. Taylor single barrel. It's not quite there. It's a little darker, a little drier. Yeah, interesting. Let me do these side by side. Right, and now what stands out on the original 1910 is the grain quality. That street corn, cornmeal type note on the nose stands out a lot more. I wasn't even recognizing it before, but once you have this extra aged counterpart next to it, definitely stands out. It doesn't cheapen it too much, but it's definitely recognizable. This is about the same price actually as this, $50 for a half bottle. And I think that's about as much right now as I'd like to pay for it. But let's go to the palate and see how it does. There's almost like a, there's something about this. There's a lot of leather in here, which I like on the 1910 Extra Old. There's something that reminds me of like shampoo. I don't know, but not in a really bitter way. And I can't really further elaborate right now. Interesting. But yeah, there's an interesting earthiness to go along with that leather. I like it. It feels a little bit at odds with itself. Like it's recognizably a young whiskey, but it has great qualities of an aged whiskey. So I'm not sure. Let's taste it. The palate is much more integrated. So this spent 18 months in the finishing cask. I'm not exactly sure how long this spends in that secondary barrel, but it's definitely not 18 months. Maybe 6. I want to say 6, but I'm not sure. Wow, much more integrated. Everything is married together much better. Yeah, the palate is really where that 1910 Extra Old shines. The nose is just fine. It's just like a slightly better version of this on the nose. The palate right now, that black pepper spice, yeah, just like kind of barrel char, bitter spice is driving everything forward. Those dry, dark fruits, that leather, dark chocolate, almost verging on sort of an espresso note now. And a nice, again, marshmallow quality that we all know and love from 1910. That's still in the 1910 Extra Old, but it's much more woven together, and that makes the finish maybe feel like it lasts longer, because you're not just left with spice after a while. You're also left with something, some core flavors on your palate. And I think that's the sign of a good finish, when the spiciness can be met with, you know, flavor notes on the palate that linger at the same time. Nancy says, as an FYI, when you get to the Flamme, the bourbon components are 6 to 9 years old with 9 months in the Armagnac cask and not 5 years as it says on the label. That's great information. Yeah. Cool. So 6 to 9 years old and 9-month finishing time. And honestly, I'm not sure the finishing time on this Starlight that I'm going to use as a point of comparison. Much lower proof on the Starlight and a little bit younger. Actually, well, with that information, significantly younger at 4.5 years old. So yeah, that will be an interesting comparison. What's up, Dan? Daniel, good to see you. Cheers, man. So Sugar Kitty, that's kind of what I was thinking is like, it's the fragrance. It's got this shampoo fragrance, like almost kind of like that dark, grapey, dark fruit type fragrance of a shampoo. It's not necessarily the bitterness that I'm talking about. So yeah, I would not feel any obligation or any extra drive to go buy this unless you're in Kentucky, specifically Louisville, to get to the distillery, or you know somebody at a store in Kentucky that's going to be getting these in. If they're going to charge you over MSRP, just walk away. Buy one of these, call it a day. I'm usually not one to like badmouth allocated products. A lot of channels kind of like, that's their MO is like, hey, here's this affordable alternative. That's a great mission and super realistic in the market that we're currently in. For me, I feel like on secondary, some things are absurd. Yeah. And the prices are absurd, but some things get those prices because they're really limited and really, really good. And you have to give them credit where credit is due in terms of the quality of the pour. This is not me just trying to crap on allocated products. It's just not that good. It's not exceptionally good. If all 1910 tasted like this, that would be a great upgrade. Let's leave 1910 in the secondary barrel a little bit longer. I would take a year without 1910 hitting the shelves if all of the stock could age in that secondary barrel to this point. I would be cool with that. Otherwise, let's let this be a one-time release and not freak out about it. The best one in this series so far for me is High Angel Share batch number 1. Those are silly good. Sugar Kitty says, okay, a fruit shampoo often has strawberry components and aldehydes. Interesting. It's good to know. Strawberry, huh? All right. Well, let's move on. We spent a little bit of time there with this 1910 comparison. Let's do an infinity glass. Why not? All right. So somebody please make sure I drink enough water today since we're doing so many side-by-sides. I'm taking small sips, but I want to be careful. And now we're going to get on to, as we were talking about with Nancy, the Flamme J. Henry & Sons Armagnac finished bourbon between 6 to 9 years old with 9 months in the Armagnac cask, a great proof, 57.47%. So let's get into that very quickly. Okay. Guys, if you're hanging out today on this Sunday late afternoon, East Coast time, hit that like button, please. And let's get some more people hanging out. We got 24 in chat and only 19 likes. So let's get that rectified, please. Let's get some more likes so some people can come in and hang out. Now on to Armagnac finished bourbon. All right. I've only had a sip or two of this Starlight Armagnac finish, so I'm not super familiar. I'm familiar with Starlight in general. Oh, dang. Spilling whiskey. The one thing about this J. Henry & Sons is the cork is either stuck or out of the bottle. There is no in between. You have to pull and pull and pull so hard to get it out. Oof, that's a heavy pour. I might pour some of that back. That's fine. All right. Just drink the whiskey. That has water in it, says Jay. That's funny. Sugar Kitty. What is the mint caramel donuts? Is that a Driftless Glen? Is that the Driftless Glen rye pick? I did. There's a bunch of the Mash and Journey stuff I didn't get in on in the beginning, and now I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to buy every one of these. I'm going to buy all of Matt Porter's picks, and And, bourbon junkies, I haven't been able to get into a higher tier to get access to picks. So I don't really get any bourbon junkies picks anymore, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. So let's do this. Let me start with the Starlight. Even though the star of this tasting is going to be this J. Henry, this is what I'm most interested in. Let's start with this 4.5 year. It's 103.8 proof or 51.9% ABV. So, at cast strength, this is actually a pretty low proof. So let's check this out on the nose. I don't know the finishing time. And I don't even really know who picked this barrel. So I'm not even sure how I got this bottle, to be honest with you. Oh, yeah. So ethanol right away, kind of unbalanced. Immediately you get hit with that kind of white wine grape, tart grape sourness. Yeah, right away. And wow, there's a disproportionate amount of ethanol on this Starlight. I'm not a fan of that. It's hard to even get through. I'm going to taste it first. It's just a little too young. There's a lot of potential in this. I love Starlight. I'm not ashamed to say that I love Starlight. Let's just say that. I have like 16 or 20 different Starlight single barrels, tons of different finishes, double oaked. It's really good stuff. This Armagnac finish, it just feels like the base whiskey that went into this barrel was too young, too ethanol forward. I think actually it's been pulled at the right time. It feels like to me on the nose, like the amount of Armagnac influence on the base spirit is at a really nice level. It's balanced. In fact, it's a little heavy. I think a lot of Starlight can get a little heavy, depending, just depends on what that finishing cask is. But I think maybe if you would have left it in the Armagnac barrel a couple more months, it would be completely overtaken. Maybe that would have helped tame down some of the ethanol that's going on here. I will throw a drop of water or two in this in a second, but for now, it's not what I'm accustomed to from Starlight, actually. There's a little herbaceousness in here, some grassiness, kind of like lemongrass. Feels more like a high rye bourbon. But that signature Starlight brown sugar, nutmeg, like I think the base of their bourbon is not typical Kentucky caramel, or Kentucky vanilla and caramel that we're used to. Theirs is more of like this sort of aromatic maple brown sugar base quality. And I like that. Yeah, this might just need a little bit of air, honestly, as well. A little bit more vanilla coming to the front on this second or third sip, whatever it is. All right. We'll come back to that. But that's, again, not the point. Just a point of comparison. Let's move on now. First and foremost, the color on this, fantastic. You guys, I believe, see this a little darker than I do. I have this light that I'm seeing it through, but it's a very, oh my gosh, what a stark difference in these two colors. I don't know if that's recognizable on your end. This is like a goldenrod or kind of like it almost looks like a scotch with coloring in it. This is just like a dark bourbon. Very nice with some kind of little bit of a red quality to it. Wow, what a difference between these two. Nothing against Starlight. These are single barrels after all. Ethanol, grassy, almost like a light whiskey in terms of its brightness and sweetness. Like a combination, like NASA Family Reserve. It kind of reminds me of a NASA Family Reserve. Light whiskey, young rye, that kind of thing. And there's much more body to this J. Henry and Sons La Flamme. That is absolutely what stands out immediately. I get almost like grilled peaches. Yeah, grilled peaches covered in some sort of, some sort of spice. Maybe roasted almonds, I want to say. There's a kind of a nuttiness in here a little bit. Something that feels a little bit toasted, a little bit burnt. What's up, Matt Porter? Sorry, I'm late. Was doing gangsta shit. That is a lie. I was folding clothes. Yeah, it's Sunday, man. It's like emergency. Oh my God, do the dishes and laundry day so I can get through the next week. And man, you just blended your ADHD whiskey blend at Barstown Bourbon Company, and you had a busy weekend. It sounds like. I was honestly thinking about going down there on Saturday morning. I heard that Discovery 7 hit shelves. I was like, okay, Matt's down there. Maybe I could just say hello in passing as you were doing things. I wanted to pick up all the new releases, but it just wasn't in the cards, man. But hope you had a good time there. I'm sure that was a lot of fun to be able to do that. And now you're back home doing gangsta shit. Okay, back to this J. Henry and Sons. Yeah, there's still a little bit of an alcohol sting to this on the nose, but it's not that youthful and bright and grassy sting of the Starlight. Let's taste it and then go back to the nose here. But like I said, it's got this overall kind of toasty grilled peach covered in kind of brown spices, a little bit of vanilla, roasted almond, maybe a kind of maple quality to it. It's very nice. Cheers, guys. Wow. That's a great, yeah. And just, there's this kind of chocolatey velvetyness on the palate, both in flavor and in texture. Wow. And that's just gonna keep going. That's just gonna keep going. That is fantastic. Great balance between spice and sort of sweeter flavors. The finishing cask feels like it's done perfectly. It's interesting to taste a young bourbon aged in an Armagnac barrel. I don't know if Nancy's still here or if Nancy could disclose this information, but I would be curious to know what the age of Armagnac cask is between the Joseph Magnus cigar blends. How old was the Armagnac in those barrels as compared to how old it was in here? Do you pair, let's say, a 20-year Armagnac barrel? Do you pair that with let's say a 6 to 9 year blend like this? Whereas with cigar blend, would you use like a 30 to 50-year-old Armagnac barrel? I don't know the answer to that. It logically seems like that might make sense, but to me, this is a really cool example of what a younger Armagnac finished bourbon can be. And look, the stuff coming out of Wisconsin right now, I've got to say, just the base bourbon across Wisconsin from different places, it seems to be like a really good place to either distill and or age bourbon. I don't know. So Matt, I saw this. I saw you post about this on Patreon, man. Yeah, I wish I could buy a case of that. How old is well, do you know what the base whiskey is, if it's like 21 or 36 MGP, and how old it is? I'd be curious to know that. But dude, of course I'm going to be buying. I've been getting in on all the ADHD whiskey picks from here on out. I've decided, like, okay, it's time to buy all of yours and all of Mash and Journey's picks. Matt's bringing Matt's milkshakes right now are bringing all the people to the live chat. That's what I'll say. Gosh. All right. Wow. You know, I'm not sure if it's the marketing slash label design that's swaying me on this, but there is something fiery about this J. Henry and Sons. Oh, interesting. This is great information. For both the La Flamme and Magnus cigar blend, the age of the Armagnac casks are in the 20 to 30-year-old range. After that, you lose too much of the fruitiness of the Armagnac. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting how those things play together then, you know, and I think, you know, when you're using some of that 36% MGP, which has this great floral quality and great dark fruit quality, especially at high ages when it starts to integrate so well. It's interesting how that pulls out particular notes from the casks that influence it so well, it feels like, and pair very nicely. And here it's almost like it just does something a little bit different with the base whiskey. Yeah, highly recommend. Guys, if you see this, Sealbox sent out an email the other day, and I bought 2 of these because I was like, I don't know what this is. I had no idea at the time. It's like, I don't know what this is, but it's Armagnac finished craft from Wisconsin. Let's dive in. And then I found out, you know, Nancy had something to do with it. It's like, okay, that's awesome. If you see it, I'm not sure what suggested retail price is. I'm going to say, look that up. Whatever that is, I would pay $10 to $15 over it. Buy 2. It's great. Cool. Yeah, and when you go back to the Starlight, I'm, you know, sorry, it's just not my favorite Starlight pick. This is just not the best barrel, and I think it's that base whiskey. Look, you can't shine a turd. You just can't do it. And I think sometimes with companies like Starlight that put out so many single barrels, you're going to have some duds. And it's not even really the fact that the finishing cask wasn't a good cask. It's just the fact that you put stuff in there that was too young. It's designed to be a little fiery. There you go. And it is. I love the spice profile on here. I need to sit down and spend some time with it to kind of dive in. I'm actually getting a little coffee bean now. Yeah. It's great. All right, let's dump these into the infinity glass. Let's move on to our next tasting. Got to have a little water first. Hit that like button if you're hanging out right now. We got more viewers than we do likes, so please hit that like button, everybody. We're going to keep going. We've got a lot of tastings to do this Sunday afternoon. All right. Matt says 6 year. Nice, dude. 6 year, 21% MGP, finished for 15 months. You're right up my alley, man. Matt, what do I have to do to get a backup of that? When that drops, maybe 3 bottles. I don't know, man. It's already sold out on Sealbox. 89. So I paid 89 for it. I got 2 of them. I would pay 89 again. That is very good whiskey. And think about it this way. Yellowstone put 7 year, I think, Kentucky straight bourbon into an Armagnac barrel for some amount of time, charged between 100, well, you know, SRP I think is 100, Ohio it's 120, and even though it's a control state, for the Yellowstone 2020 LE, and that was just terrible whiskey. And actually what's funny is that some of those same qualities from the La Flamme are recognizable in that Yellowstone 2020, but they do not make sense. From base bourbon, which is way too nutty, to the finishing cask, it just did not pair well. This paired much better. That Yellowstone to me was a travesty. And it's cheaper. So consider that. All right. Getting a little water in my system. And what's next? I think I said the Makers is next. So let's check out the Mash and Journey Maker's Mark Private Selection, The Blind Speaks. So Trev was along for this pick, if I recall. Shameless plug, this Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, Trev is going to be on the Drums and Drams channel. We're going to do a live head-to-head blind flight sent to us from Amy Bohm. And that's going to be a lot of fun. But he was along. He's a Makers fanboy for this pick with Jason and Scott. So let's get into that with a comparison to FAE02. Just in case you guys are familiar with that, I can give you some flavor notes that might relate to that FAE02. So you can maybe better imagine what this one tastes like. Wow. So Nancy says that Joe Jr. and I are working on the 2022 release of La Flamme on Friday. It takes us about a year and a half or so to work on the blend. Jeez. Nancy, in that case, so it sounds to me like you have a collaborative relationship with J. Henry and Sons. In the case of, let's say, working with that distillery, how often would you visit them and sit down and do this? And also, in addition to that question, part two, do you work like work from home? Do you kind of do satellite work also for them? Or do you have to be in person? Do you always show up and do your work there? Or do you take samples with you or have them shipped to you and do some blending on your own? These are questions, of course, I'm going to ask you when we do our live stream, but I am curious to know a little bit more from the industry perspective of how you logistically manage some of this. All right, so this is FAE02 going in the glass. And now let's get the Mash and Journey. Mike Meyer, I saw some pictures popping up about this. I did not get to tune in on Friday to the stream, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to go fast forward through and fill myself in on what that's all about. Cheers, guys. Let me know if you're sipping on something. I know it's a little early to be possibly having a pour, but let me know if you are. And again, please hit that like button on your way in. Oh, Nancy. I've been their master blender since 14. I visit them about once or twice a year, although I do the majority of the blending from home these days. Joe Jr. and I work together on them. Okay. I've always wondered what that's like because I'm sure if you do work with too many, well, too many is relative, but if you work with so many people, that traveling just becomes a hassle. I mean, and being on the road as a musician, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, not that a concert from home was ever accepted until COVID. Home concerts became a thing for a while, and it's no substitute for the real thing. But like being on the road so much, there's only so much you can do with a particular level of infrastructure behind you before you have to have an assistant, a tour manager, you know, that kind of thing. All right, cool. So let me coat these glasses. We're going to start with FAE02 and then move on to the Mash and Journey pick, the Blind Speaks. Let me look at the colors very quickly. Yeah, basically identical, kind of to be expected with these makers. Proof points. Let's talk proof. 109.1 on my FAE02 and 112.2, a little bit of a bump on the Mash and Journey pick. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Before COVID, when things were rocking and rolling for me and I was out on the road all the time, I was at the point where I was just about to hire somebody to go on the road with me. Whenever I was out of town, someone that was versed as an audio tech, basically, but also could help me move gear, you know, kind of, for lack of a better word, a roadie. But I was like right there, like, okay, it's a little unsustainable. And then COVID hit and decimated everything. So Over the next 3 weeks, I'm gearing up for my first big show back in 2 years, which is crazy. All right. So FAEO2 first. And just keep in mind, I'm not the biggest Makers fan as we go through this, but I'm very curious about what Jason, Trev, and Scott did with this pick. So FAEO2, tons of bright cherry, bright strawberry, atomic fireball cinnamon, that weird Makers thing. I don't know how to describe it. I need to spend more time with Makers to figure out what exactly I could liken that Makers funk to. Feels pretty dry on the nose. Yeah, dry. That dry wood quality I also talk about a lot with Makers products. Man. Look, FAEO1 and FAEO2, those are my favorite Makers products by far. There is an insane amount of strawberry right now on the palate from FAEO2. And just the weight on the palate and the heaviness of this whiskey, along with the very high amount of spice, it's fantastic. And I enjoy it quite a bit. I don't know which one I like better, FAEO1 or O2, but that is very, very good stuff. And it just lasts forever. At 109.1 proof, it drinks over its proof, but not in a bad way, not in an alcohol-forward way. All right. There we go. That's this next one. The Mash and Journey pick is a little funkier. I'm not sure about it. We're going to have to get into it here. Sugar Kitty Wheat Funk, like wheat germ. Not exactly sure what that means. I'm not a wheat expert. I'm actually not really an expert on anything. I feel like I just kind of pretend these days. It's the old imposter syndrome. Even with music, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just play that tambourine part. You know, do this, do that. Hit that like button, please, if you are hanging out right now. We're doing good. It's 50 minutes into the stream, and we're about to cross the halfway mark in terms of tastings. Assuming I get to all of these, because this is a lot of whiskey. I was going to bring out the spit cup. I'm not ruling that out still because, yeah, 12 bottles is, you know, nothing to take lightly, I guess. All right, on to the Mash and Journey pick. If I could stop spilling on myself. Oh, what does that remind me of? The FAEO2 is a darker overall profile. There's actually, now that I'm coming back to it on this comparison, tobacco, a little bit of this sweet tobacco note. Yeah, a little drier. The Mash and Journey pick, a little brighter overall. More kind of a lemon note. What do I have to say? Yeah, lemon, kind of lemon peel. You do get a little quality of the corn grain coming through here. Same thing, cornmeal, that dusty corn note. I don't want to say it's disjunct because look, anytime I'm evaluating friends or other whiskey tubers picks or blends or finishes or whatever, you know, keep in mind it's all personal preference. And also, you never know what they had to work with, whether it's a single barrel or whatever. You never know, like, they may have picked the best thing they could have picked that day. So I try not to like say anything super negative. This may not be for me on the nose so far. But there's something kind of campfire-y about this, which I guess I'm not so familiar with from a Maker's Mark perspective. Right. Okay, I think I'm starting to tune into this a little bit more. That Maker's Funk that I'm not the biggest fan of, that I really get in like the 46 cask strength, that's definitely here. I'm getting a lot of light flavors and a lot of dark flavors. And it feels like, at least on the nose, I haven't tasted it yet, that there's not a lot of a middle ground to support it. Whereas this whiskey lives in the mid to dark range of kind of flavor notes. I'm getting some vanillas here, those brighter vanilla cinnamon Maker's notes, but I'm also getting campfire. And almost like, if you guys have ever had, geez, this is a specific thing, a Good Times apricot brandy finish, which I know there's a lot of drama out there about the way that Good Times does their finishes. Basically tastes like flavored whiskey. This almost has a flavored apricot brandy note to it, which I would say is maybe the most mid-range note that I get out of this pour so far on the nose. So let me taste it now. Cheers. The palate. Oh, the palate is so much better than the nose for me. Oh, yeah. The vanilla. The vanilla and the strawberry. Strawberry shortcake all day. That is where this thing shines for me. And now on the back end, I'm starting to get like a burnt pie crust, a burnt graham cracker, something. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I actually, and it adds a little bit of a bitterness to the back end, making it more interesting. It's not as cohesive. That would be, yeah, to be expected. They have every kind of stave represented in here. The FAEO2 has, I think it's, 10 virgin toasted French oak staves. This is a singular focus on the finish. This is a much more diverse focus. And that totally comes across in the whiskey, which is cool. I mean, because that's the point of doing this. The point is this will be more diverse. These are more solid releases that they can do. Guys, I'm going to get to the chat in just a second. I see Dustin's in here. Sugar Kitty. Amy, what's up, Amy? Yeah. All right, I'm after drinking the Mash and Journey pick, the palate helps you figure out what's going on here so much better. Yeah, it's strawberry shortcake. It's light and dark, and this is mid to dark flavor notes. What's up, Bourbon Neophyte? I might have to see, guys, I'm going to very quickly pull up here on my secondary screen what the tasting notes were for this Mash and Journey pick. Let me see if I can find it in the next 60 seconds. I will tell you. I'm going to see what I'm tasting and how that compares to what they said about this. It actually might be in my email. That might be the quickest way to do it. Mash and Journey. Order your, okay, that's the Sagamore, which I just ordered, which I'm very excited for. Here we go. Here's the Maker's pick. Let's see if there's any tasting notes to look at here. Page not found. Here we go. There it is. Let me make my screen bigger. Tasting notes. Nose, sweet toffee, vanilla extract. Got a lot of vanilla. Hint of chocolate. I could see that on the dark end of things. pastry cream, butterscotch, and rich spice. Yes, I can totally see that on the nose. It seems brighter. Yes, and the butterscotch. It's kind of a cheap, bright butterscotch. Not like the dusty, funky butterscotch, but I have a Blue Note pick with tons of butterscotch, like a Werther's Original. This has that. Yeah, but let's see on the palate. Tons of viscosity. Yeah. Complex mix of toffee, chocolate, caramel alongside coffee and nuts with spice overtones. Oak carries over from the nose, lingers on the tongue with a long and complex finish. You know what they didn't mention ever in this pour? There's not a single fruit note in the tasting notes that, whether it was Jason or Scott or a combination with Trev, whatever. They never mentioned a fruit note. I'm getting so much strawberry shortcake in here. They talk about pastry cream. They talk about vanilla extract, butterscotch, hint of chocolate. I'm going to say this is strawberry shortcake, but a spicy version. Back to FAEO2, and then we'll move on. Oh, FAEO2, much more chocolate. Look, if I had to choose, I would pick FAEO2 because I like a darker profile, and I'm actually getting coffee bean off of the FAEO2. Yeah, I would have to go with the darker profile. That's just who I am as a whiskey drinker. All right, guys, a lot of people jumping in chat now. Thank you so much for hanging out and popping in here. I guess it's Sunday evening now. It's no longer late afternoon. So hit that like button if you're popping in. We're about halfway through this stream, assuming I get through all 12 bottles, God forbid. Doing a lot of side-by-side comparisons to kind of shine some light on the new pickups that I've got recently. Let me jump back in the chat. Amy, so good to see you. Your stuff is on the way. Your samples that I owe you from a few weeks ago. Sorry it took so long. Thank you for your patience. Dustin, this is a great question. And honestly, if you tell me to pick a favorite King of Kentucky, that's super easy. If you want me to compare them, that's a different story. I'm not sure I can do that on today's stream. That is slated to be the last comparison between these two. Both 14-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon single barrels at cask strength. And throwing another one in there, that's just liver suicide. I think High Angels Share Batch 1 is the closest you're going to get to a King of Kentucky that's actually between like 6 and 8 years old. Like I don't remember the exact ages of High Angels Share Batch 1, but I'm pretty sure Daniel P. in the chat here told me that they're not old. I think he said 6, 7, or 8 years old, some combination in that first batch, which is shocking if you taste it because I think it tastes like a 10-year-old whiskey. Yeah, you got to hydrate it. I'm feeling that right now. I'm 6 pours deep, but when I say 6 pours, this is how much leftover I have so far. I do my best to take small sips on these streams. You got to, at some point doing all this, you got to preserve your health. And I went through a phase where I didn't, and I was drinking so much every day, completely unintentional. Like, I say this, and I'm not trying to be funny or whatever. Honestly, I was trying to train my palate, and I was drinking so much every day, like 4 to 10 pours a day, and I went through a period of that, and you kind of come out of that and you just go, what in the hell am I doing? Because you start to accept the fact that you're just, for me, it's a hobby. It's not a profession, which is another distinction. But then you start to accept the fact that you're doing it, and it just kind of becomes whatever. But at some point you realize, like, oh my God, like this is kind of crazy what I'm doing, and to what end? So, it's just important to keep an eye on it. Not trying to preach. Not trying to preach. Yeah, Nancy. Also trying to drink something with electrolytes like coconut water. Beet juice also helps your liver process. That's interesting. I feel like beet juice would be a very strong flavor. Maybe if you drink it after the fact when you're done with your palate. For me, like if I eat raw onions, my palate is shot. So I have to be really careful, even for the limited amount. Like, how much does whiskey tube matter in the grand scheme of things? Not a lot. But for me as a hobbyist, it matters that I can pick up tasting notes and stuff. So I have to be really careful about what I eat and drink at different times of day. Yeah. So yeah, definitely afterwards. I feel like, yeah, the beet juice would just decimate your palate. Oh, what's up? Chug it. Chug it, says Trev. All right. Full bottle, light whiskey. No, I'm just kidding. Wasabi wrecks me, says Amy. Guys, I've been having some serious GI issues for the last, I would say, year and a half. Still undiagnosed. Have an appointment with a specialist in May. And I'm trying to get it all figured out. And I don't know if it's from this increased consumption. I've always had GI things kind of just growing up, but it's gotten to a point that's just unbearable over here on the left side. I've had an ultrasound. I've had all sorts of blood taken and tests done. So it's just nothing to mess around with. And we got to be careful with this particular hobby. All right. Bourbon Neophyte says, I haven't been able to find FAO2 in Las Vegas. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen it here in Ohio either. I think I got mine in a local trade, but I've never seen it on a shelf. All right, let's go on, guys, to something a little different, especially for me. I was going to taste the new Elijah Craig A122. What do you guys think? Should I do Elijah Craig barrel proof, or should I just skip it and go on to the Penelope Founders with a comparison next to the Backbone Triple Down Light Whiskey? What do you guys think? Are you more interested in the A122 or the Penelope Founders Reserve Light Whiskey? Let me know in the next minute or so I can make a decision. Dustin, I guess the real question is the King of Kentucky 7 times better than the Old Forester High Angel Share? Would you rather 1 King of Kentucky or 7? Dustin, that depends. Are you talking half bottles of the High Angel Share, and are we talking MSRP or secondary values? Because if what you're saying is 3.5 bottles of High Angel Share 1 to 1 bottle of this, I'm probably still going to say 1 bottle of this, because it also depends on the barrel you get. This barrel is good. I mean, it's in fact, it's great. But the barrel that Ashton sent me, the 2020, that particular barrel was unbelievable. Never had a whiskey in my life that tastes that good. Talking secondary. Yeah. I don't know. Well, I'll have to do this on a different stream. I'll have to figure this out. If I can get there today, I will, but no guarantees. Yeah, you're right. Secondary values are 7-1 basically, which is crazy. Look, I'm quantity at that point 7-1, which is actually 3.5-1. At that price, secondary price, that's when it gets hefty, because you're paying like $17.50 for one of these. I might go High Angel Share on that one. I think I like. Well, here's the other one. Cigar blend. Nancy's in the house. And I'm guilty of this recently because I buy secondary because it's the only way I can get these bottles. I bought 8 bottles of cigar blend on secondary. And, what would the equivalency be? 5 bottles of cigar blend to one of these? I'm going to buy 5 bottles of cigar blend. It's going to last me a lot longer. Wow, Daniel. Oldest barrel is 6.6 years old in the High Angel Share Batch 1. That's ridiculous. So it looks like more people want to see the Elijah Craig A122. So let me get into that. If we have time for the light whiskey in liver capacity, I will do that. But let's set this one up now. Make sure I got some clean, mostly clean glasses. Rinsed glasses at the very least. All right. Here is A122. And this is C921, which I still haven't. I know I just have been so bogged down. Getting reviews out has been a challenge. I don't have a review out for C921, but it's just another okay batch, at least for me. But I need to do a full vertical with the 2021 batches. Yeah, Nancy, they are out of control. And it sucks because, you know, again, in a control state like Ohio, the only way you get these is to randomly guess and stay at whatever store and then stand in line for at least 2 to 3 hours. And I just don't have the time for it. So time to money ratio, it's actually cheaper to just buy the damn things on secondary at $325 a bottle, which is crazy. But it's a luxury product in many cases. And a lot of people get mad that I say that I do that, and that I do that, and that I admit that I do that. It's like we got to do what we got to do. Nancy, I love C921. I have tasted these side by side for the Patreon, so I'm going to be curious to see how they do today. I'm just bummed at the new standard of Elijah Craig barrel proof being around 120 proof and not around 132, which is kind of typical. Let's start with the C921. Yeah, 60.1 for C921 and 60.4 for A122. So here's C921. Creamy peanut butter. Lots and lots of kind of burnt orange. You know, if you would burn an orange slice, put it into a cocktail. Green apple skins. A lot of citrus, a lot of brighter notes jumping out of the glass. Interesting. Let's go to A122 on the nose now. Huh. You know, I'm not getting much out of A122. Okay. It's like it doesn't want to jump out of the glass at all. It's much more peanut brittle and just straight up cinnamon. Huh. Yeah, there's a lot more going on from C921 on the nose. Plain and simple. It's a lower proof, but it does not smell like a lower proof. This is not the first time I've said this in a comparison of these two either. Wow. There's not any funk to this C921. This is a very clean profile to me. Direct, to the point, brighter. Again, those green apple skins, that burnt orange note. Oh my God, Matt. I'm going to show this comment to Sarah as maybe a motivator for her to go stand in lines. Oh my God, that is hilarious. Batch 66. I believe I have a batch 66 in my basement right now, Matt. If you decide to crack that, I would love to crack that together with you on a stream and taste along. That would be a lot of fun. You've probably already cracked it, honestly. I'm very impatient. Let me just say that. Okay, coming back to the nose, I'm actually starting to get a little bit of a more textured profile from the C921, which I just said on the palate was very clean, very down the middle, brighter. I am starting to get a little texture here from like a kind of like ground coffee, straight out of the grinder, about to do your pour over. It reminds me of that. Matt says, "Oh, it's already open." I have a 61. Let me see. I have a 67, 61, and 58 open right now. And 61, I don't know what it is about 61. I am maybe liking that more than the Darth Vader batch, which, you know, it's not like the Darth Vader batch was particularly or necessarily supposed to be the best batch, just the highest proof and very intense. I don't know what it is about 61, but I would love to get a backup. And then that 67 it's a good batch, you know. It's kind of between the two, it feels like. Or maybe not between the two. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. But anyways. All right, let's go to A122 now. And guys, if you're hanging out, please hit that like button. That would help so much. Let me get back to here. 35 likes, 36 likes, and 31 viewers. That's a good ratio, but if you haven't hit it, please do hit it. That would help. Nancy, my apologies. My partner just now got home and we're headed out with our dog Brandy to go hiking by the ocean. That sounds like a terrible day. I'll watch the rest of the episode later. Cheers all. Happy Sunday. Cheers, Nancy. Thanks for jumping in. Good to see you again. And, hopefully we'll be on a live stream together very, very soon. Have a good rest of your Sunday. A122, more dark chocolate than coffee. C921 had this coffee note, and then all of these kind of brighter, citrusy, bright fruit. This one is a little more dark chocolate, a little more earthy. It drinks lower proof. Yeah. And it's actually a little bit higher proof. Is that a sign of a good batch? Not necessarily. I don't really know. It's less complex. It's just a darker, more singular profile on A122. I think actually it's a more approachable profile, whereas C921 has a little more sting to it. Yes, 100%. C921 actually reminds me more of the good batches, the 2017 to 2019 batches of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. C921 brings me back. A122, not so much. A122 feels like the new normal, like a really good batch of what Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is kind of unfortunately becoming, which is a lower proof, less complex, less interesting pour than it used to be. And I say that as somebody that owns, I don't even know, 12, 15, probably 18 different batches of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I've tasted through all of them. I just feel like the new normal is more simple, more simplistic. So for what that's worth, I personally, if you want darker, earthier, straightforward, less complex, A122. If you want something with a little more brightness, drinks a little hotter like you might want, C921. Bourbon Neophyte, polishing off an Elijah Craig small batch. Good choice. Barrel picks of Elijah Craig small batch. Love them. I have a 12-year that's open. Crazy good. A Liquor Barn pick. I feel like every Liquor Barn pick I've had is really good. And I have an 11-year unopened Elijah Craig small batch pick. Or I should say single barrel pick. Okay. All right, guys. Let me keep going here. So let's put these Elijah Craigs to the side. And here's what I'm going to do. Are we going to do light whiskey? Let's do light whiskey. Why not? Why not do light whiskey? Let me get a little more water in my body. And then we're going to do this Penelope Founder's Reserve, which I'm so glad I found a bottle of. Okay. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Sorry, I'm annoying. I apologize. And give me just a second. Get a little water. Guys, let me know in the live chat. What are your thoughts on Penelope? First, just kind of as a brand. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And specifically, if you've had this Founder's Reserve light whiskey, I saw Trev did a video on it this week. Let me know what you think about this. For me personally, at the beginning of trying Penelope stuff, the barrel strength in particular, I was like, nah, this is kind of weird. I didn't really understand it. And there was just this insane amount of barrel char on an otherwise very bright, slightly medicinal bourbon. And as these barrel strength batches as they've gotten deeper into them, more releases, they're just getting better and better. The rosé cask finish is ridiculous. I think batch 2, actually, for me, because it retains some of the youth, is actually better than batch 3. Love the rosé cask finish. The toasteds are amazing, and they do different char levels and toast levels. The single barrels, the blends, I feel like Penelope is just doing everything right. And look, behind me here, that used to be a shelf of just of Penelope and Blue Run, and it's grown to be just Penelope now. There's so much of it. Jay, light whiskey is getting a little out of control, in my opinion. I would agree with that. It feels like the demand has at first it was, oh my God, this is 14 years old and really high proof. What's going on? And everybody wanted to try it. I think now that everybody's tried it, the novelty's kind of worn off, especially for me. And I've never done a side-by-side. We'll do one real quick. I'll have one sip of each, but I don't want to go crazy. I've never done a side-by-side of light whiskey because I've just never been interested to until I got this. And here's the deal. Penelope might just be doing this because they were offered the barrels. They wanted to expand their portfolio and introduce a higher aged and or more limited line with the Founder's Reserve label. All of that makes sense to me. I'm cool with it. But I trust Penelope to the point that this makes me want to do a side-by-side comparison with light whiskeys, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Jared, light whiskey feels like a bit of a cash grab. I would agree. I would definitely agree. Although Brain Candy, the Mash and Journey pick, while it's not something that I would ever want to pour and drink every day, that's kind of a cool thing to own. What is it, like 26-year-old light whiskey or something? All right. So real quick, just a very quick comparison, and then we'll get to the main event, I guess. Dustin, the distribution just might not be there yet. It's not in Ohio. I have to source it all from Seal Box. Okay, let's get into this. Stats. Let's go stats very quickly. Again, my goal is to check out the Penelope. It is 13 years old, and this is a single barrel by Bourbon Finds at 131.6 proof. This is also a single barrel by Bourbon Finds, same palate, slightly older at 14 and a half as opposed to 13 years, and slightly higher proof at 136.8. So it's not a perfect comparison. It's not like we're going to move up in proof to get to the Penelope. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. I'm going to start on the higher proof, just frame of reference. See, yeah, light whiskey to me, it never smells like, oh man, I can't wait to drink this. It's just like, well, that's a weird bourbon. You know, that's like it's a scotchy bourbon. It's aged slower, it's brighter, it's more kind of acidic, more ethanol forward. I'll say this right away. There's only a 5 proof point difference here. It feels like a 10 to 15 proof point difference on the nose. The Penelope is much rounder. And this is a signature of what Penelope does. They have sweet, round, approachable profiles, kind of young in some of their stuff. This is a different story. So let me have a little sip of the Triple Down Light Whiskey. And that tastes like just about every other light whiskey I've ever had. It's a little green, a little vegetal, lots of just sticky, sweet vanilla, kind of cake batter, kind of textured like you would expect cake batter to be. Yeah. Now let's go to the Penelope. Oh, maybe pear as well. Much rounder on the nose. Wow. Whoa. That is so much better, it's not even funny. Wow. Still not something I would drink every day, but there's something about this. It ramped the hell up on the palate. That was crazy. Yeah. It's just, again, both single barrels. So much more integrated and less grassy and vegetal. That is my biggest issue. I don't like, look, Ezra Brooks 99. The finish is just freshly cut grass. It's like you just went outside in June and cut your grass, and then you got done and you pulled off your white Suburban Dad New Balances and just licked them. That's what that's the finish of Ezra Brooks 99. I just don't like grassiness in a profile unless it's just a slight accent. This is a grassy light whiskey along with so many others. This is not. I don't know why. Could just be single barrel differences. I don't know. Wow. Now here's the true test. I have a batched version of this on the way. So Penelope released, I think it's 128.4 proof or something like that. And it's not a single barrel. It's their batched Founder's Reserve. JG, you're cracking me up. So I'm going to compare this single barrel next to their batched product and see what the differences are. Wow. This is insanely good. I'm very happy about that purchase. This stuff is not cheap. It's like $100 a bottle. I think it's the most expensive thing Penelope has released. But I just cannot say enough good about Penelope. The infinity glass for this stream is out of control. Oh, we're going to get to the main event now. Cell phone took a dive, but we're going to get to this bad boy. This is the infinity glass for the stream so far. So that's a lot. All right. And we're going to do this. So let's talk about this before we get into this tasting. And you know what? Dustin, are you still in here? You are. I will pull this out, Dustin. I think I can do it. But I do need to hydrate right now. Sugar Kitty, thank you for the reminder. JG said, this is what I was laughing at a second ago. I thought that you were the only one to lick your white New Balances after you cut the grass. Oh my goodness. All right. Let me have a few water shots. All right. Got to stay hydrated. And I have an electrolyte drink for after the stream. Cool. So let's talk about this tasting. I'm going to stay vertical, don't you worry. The reason I'm doing this is because for a while I had been seeing the Lucky 7 proprietor 14-year single barrels popping up. I think the first time I saw it, it may have been Scott from My Bourbon Journey posting a video about this. He did a review of this. He's also reviewed other Lucky 7 bottles, I believe. Now, when someone says, here's a 14-year-old single barrel cask strength whiskey from Kentucky, I say, okay, it's Barton. You know, everybody's got Barton. Augusta has the Buckner's 13-year single barrel. Sam Houston's doing small batches, 12, 14, 15 years. Calumet Farm, Cream of Kentucky, Blue Run, presumably. Everybody's doing Barton sourced stuff. So when I heard about this, I didn't think much of it. Okay. Now, I'm somebody that trusts first and foremost my own palate, because what you like is what you like. But there are people in the industry and in whiskey tube and enthusiasts whose palates I trust. I trust Matt Porter. I trust Jason. I trust Trev, Scott. But in terms of reading written reviews, I trust Breaking Bourbon a lot of the time. And when I saw that Breaking Bourbon had a review of this, they gave 4.5 barrels out of 5, which is a very high rating for them. And they could not say enough good about this. It was a sample sent to them by the distillery, or I shouldn't say distillery, I should say parent company, whoever sourced this. It was Barrel 72. And I told myself, this doesn't make a lot of sense, first off. If this, which I would assume is Barton, based on the 14-year, the cask strength, the timing, the price, everything. If this is Barton, and the barrel 72 that they got was 134 proof, that makes no sense. I've never seen, please correct me if I'm wrong, I have never seen 134 proof Barton on the market. Never. Maybe maybe they sourced the barrels, put them in a different warehouse on a top floor, and they got really insanely high proof. I don't know. I had never seen it before. When I think 134 proof, I go to two places. I go to Brown-Forman, I go to Heaven Hill. Brown-Forman does not source out their stuff. Not really. Heaven Hill, a little bit more. We can imagine Lux Rose probably taking some of that stuff, or has, and some other places. But maybe not 14-year stuff. Heaven Hill probably needs to hang on to that. I don't know. But when I started reading the Breaking Bourbon review of this, I was confused. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'm seeing proofs of Lucky 7, the proprietor, 14-year specifically, not the 12-year. I'm seeing proofs that range from like 115 to 134. So what the hell's going on here? Because that's a crazy range of proofs for these single barrels. My thought was, if I ever find Barrel 72, I'll buy it, because that's what Breaking Bourbon reviewed. But if I don't find it, I'm probably not going to take my chances on this, because it's expensive and I don't know what I'm going to get. Lo and behold, Barrel 72 pops up on the secondary market. I said, screw it. I'm going to buy 3. I'm rolling the dice. I'm going to buy 3 of these damn things. So I bought 3, and they got here on Thursday. Friday, I think. So 2 days ago, I popped this bottle open. I tasted it. And I was like, oh my God. So I messaged the guy that got these. I said, can you give me 3 more of these things? He said, yeah. So I've got 6 bottles of this. This to me is like quintessential Kentucky cask strength bourbon. It's unreal. So let me pour it. I'm going to taste and talk about this first. Now, I have not compared this to anything else, but I just started thinking, because the way this tastes, I just cannot imagine this is Barton. I've tasted so much Barton, sourced Barton. It spent time elsewhere and this and that, and it's been blended. I cannot imagine that this is Barton. It might be. I don't know. But I started thinking, you know what? Let's put it next to another 14-year single barrel cask strength Kentucky bourbon, the King of Kentucky. And Dustin mentioned he wanted to know the King of Kentucky to Old Forester High Angel Share Batch 1 comparison, which is a great comparison, in my opinion. I'll pour it also. So I apologize for the long explanation here. But guys, I got this bottle off the truck. It was delivered to my house. It was freezing cold. That day was cold before this heat wave right now. And I smelled it. And when I smell cold whiskey off the neck of a bottle after I open it, I get more oak than the whiskey usually has when it warms up. I don't know why. So I was like, maybe I won't think anything of it. So I let the whiskey warm up. I tasted it that night. Blown away. So let's get into this Barrel 72. This is the exact barrel that Breaking Bourbon reviewed. 134.14 proof, or 67.07% ABV. Again, 14 years old. Let's check this out. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat while I smell this. Sugar Kitty, you're right. I know Barton barrel entry is 125. It is possible, but I've just never seen it. This is a good time to be doing the last pour of the stream, because Sarah is cooking. I can smell it now. I have the door shut in here when I do these things, but it's starting to seep in. So if I start saying that this smells like roasted chicken, then you know that, my nose and palate are gone. So this is just sweet oak all the way. Sweet oak, raspberry, just fruits out the wazoo. But sweet oak is the predominant note through all of this. Vanilla cream. If you told me that some of those fruity notes came from a Barton product, I would say, all right, I could believe that. But I'm getting so much oak and so much vanilla and leather and this kind of stuff that I'm going Heaven Hill. I'm thinking this is like an Elijah Craig barrel proof. The palate is unbelievable. It is not often. Oh my God, that is so stupid good. We're not even into the finish. The palate is just still going. Oh. It is not often that you find a bourbon where there is like 134 proof and it drinks not hot. I mean, but it lets you know it's a high proof, that the flavor in the whiskey surpasses the proof point. There is so much flavor in this that when you drink it, you're like, oh, it's probably 120 proof, because there's just so much richness and sweetness in here. And I gave this to Sarah, my wife. She had a sip and she's like, this is really good, you know? And we were just laying in bed watching a TV show, passing the glass back and forth, having a sip. And then I said, yeah, you know, it's 134 proof. And she goes, what? She could not believe it. This is one of the sweetest bourbons I've ever had. It's not stupid sweet, like something flavored or good times or dumb, you know, something like that. There are elements to this that would lead me to believe that it's Barton with all that fruitiness, but there's zero bitter in this barrel. Could just be a barrel in particular. There's probably a reason that Lucky 7 sent this sample to Breaking Bourbon to review. It's probably the best barrel that they had, and they probably knew that. But there's zero bitterness. So I'm like, this doesn't feel like Barton to me. I have had a Sam Houston 15 batch with a disproportionate amount of vanilla cream, which I usually liken to Heaven Hill and some King of Kentucky batches when you get to that 14-year plus age range. Evan Williams 23 has a lot of it. Some Michter's 10s have a lot of it. So I don't know where this comes from. I would have to imagine it's Heaven Hill, but I could totally see Barton. Industry insiders have said Heaven Hill. I'll just say that. And then on the consumer side of things, a lot of consumers have said Barton. I don't know. But it's not exactly any of them. That's the problem. Like, I'm smelling and tasting some Brown-Forman qualities because it's got a great spice and this interesting dark fruit thing like I get from King of Kentucky. It has the vanilla of Heaven Hill. It has the insane cherry of the Barton. So I don't know. It's not clear, but I just don't know. I can't imagine it's anywhere else at 14 years old, though. Brian says, fairly certain I've heard Bardstown. Sorry, guys, I have not been checking on the chat. I've been rambling like a lunatic. So if we're talking Bardstown, it could be what? Barton, Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill could be Bardstown, right? Barton, Heaven Hill. What else did I say? Brown-Forman, which would not be. Right. And I don't imagine that it's Brown-Forman based on, you know, what they source out or don't source out, I should say. All right, before the smell of whatever Sarah is cooking overtakes the household, let's pull this out. This is not the best barrel of King of Kentucky I've ever had. It's the one that I own, though. It's a little more spice-driven, not quite as much sweetness and vanilla as the 2020 that I've had. I just wasted a drop. That's a shame. But this is 129.7 proof. Yeah. Quick math. 129.7. And then let's check out High Angel Share Batch 1, which I love. Got to preserve it, though. I have no backups. All right, so let's start with the Lucky 7, which, listen, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to put a review out of this, and I'm going to say it's a top 10 whiskey I've ever tasted. This barrel is stupid. It might not be the case for every barrel. I don't understand the range of proofs in these barrels when they're sourcing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Part of me thinks, what if they source from Barton and Heaven Hill, and they have different barrels under this one release? I think that's legal, but it's just kind of weird if they did that, because you typically see aged Barton like this around 115 to like 122 proof or something. All right, so let me start here with the Lucky 7 again. It lacks like 5% refinement for me. That's the only issue that I have with this. There's just something that's a little unrefined about it. Let's go to the King of Kentucky 2021. Sheesh. It just smells like a slightly upgraded version of this. A little more vanilla cream and sweetness, but it kind of smells the same. More tobacco. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually really related to that flavor. Yeah, Sugar Kitty, it says Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Brian already got that. Yep. Look. King of Kentucky actually drinks over the Lucky 7 proof. And the Lucky 7 is 2.5% more alcohol, which means this drinks really under and this drinks appropriately. King of Kentucky tastes like it has some sort of like light Armagnac finish because there's so much dark fruit and grape in this as compared to the Lucky 7, which is more of a just sweet oak, vanilla, caramel, just straight down the middle, raspberry, all those flavors, Kentucky bourbon notes. And that kind of, not dusty funk, but just oak funk. There's so much more of that in the Kentucky, King of Kentucky, as opposed to the Lucky 7, which again is really down the middle. Sugar Kitty, they're single barrels. So that's what I'm wondering is, could you source a single barrel from two different distilleries, put it under the same label, and just, let that go? Yeah, Mike, right. They both smell like chicken. It's just getting worse and worse. So I got to get through this last tasting, and then I got to get off here because otherwise I can't smell anything. Yeah, Brian, now that I'm doing this side by side, I don't think it's Brown-Forman, but there are elements. I can see this being a really weirdly off-profile Barton barrel. I think I could. I could also see it being a really weirdly off-profile Heaven Hill barrel, especially given the proof and given the fact that there's just zero medicinal notes, zero bitter notes in this. All right. Now, for Dustin, I don't know if Dustin is still here, Dustin Pullman, but he asked, how does the High Angels Share Batch 1 compare to the King of Kentucky? Well, let's do that comparison. It's a good comparison. It's my favorite 117 series. And I never get banana on this, but next to these heavy hitter, very aged whiskeys, I'm smelling a lot of banana runts. There are notes in the High Angels Share Batch 1 that relate to King of Kentucky. Absolutely. But to compare them, the minute you're hit with that vanilla cream and slightly dusty funk quality and insane oakiness that's very sweet, the minute the King of Kentucky hits your nose with that, you go, I want that. That's the one I want. Even if I only get one of those and not 3.5 full bottles of this, I'm okay with that. Quality over quantity for me in this instance. Thank you, Amy. Good to see you. And cheers. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Yeah. But I will say, when you drink High Angels Share Batch 1 alone, you don't put it next to King of Kentucky, you say to yourself, oh man, this kind of reminds me of King of Kentucky. That's good. Stay there. Do not compare it side by side to King of Kentucky, because then you go, that's not that close. So it depends. If you don't own a King of Kentucky, maybe you go in and buy more of these instead of buying one of these. Wow. But the real reason I did this comparison was for this bad boy. And I'm stoked to have many, many backups. To me, at this point, with the whiskey game, it is kind of a game. It's find what you like, and that takes a long time. For some people, find what you like is, let me drink Old Forester 100, Wild Turkey Rare Breed, Four Roses Single Barrel, E.H. Taylor Small Batch. Okay, between those four, I like this one the most. That's what I drink for the rest of my life. That is a good place to be. For us nerds, it's like, let me buy 200 bottles over the next 2 years, figure out what I like, and go with that. Or some people, it's like, let me buy 200 bottles, and I'm just going to keep buying random stuff and just try new stuff. That's also cool. For me, after owning like 500 bottles, I think what has become the most clear is you can basically predict what anything is going to taste like once you buy it. And there aren't that many shocks to the system anymore. It kind of desensitizes you to stuff. Oh, you did this blend, you did this blend. I can taste this and this and this, and it reminds me of this. And I'm not saying this to try to sound like a dickhead or a know-it-all. It's just like anything else. When you've tried so much of it, just find what you like out of that and dial in on it. And for me, that is Joseph Magnus Cigar Blend. It's this. Seriously, this is a staple for me. This particular barrel, it's Elijah Craig barrel proof. It's Four Roses single barrel picks. That's the stuff that I'm drilling down on. And yeah, like I want to try the newest Blue Note pick. I want to try the newest local craft distillery thing in Ohio. But you got to find what you like in all of that. So anyways, guys, this Barrel 72 is unreal. So that's it. We tasted everything. We did all 12 bottles. I can't believe it. This is this is a little bit of King of Kentucky left. That's my final sip for the evening. Jay, I don't know what you're doing with that eggplant emoji. Thank you all for hanging out this evening. Before you go, hit that like button. It's been a fun stream. It's been a lot of whiskey tasting. I'm gonna go hang out with my wife, who is clearly cooking dinner, which is amazing. I'm not going to complain about that, although it made everything smell like chicken here at the very end. But cheers, guys, with this King of Kentucky 2021. And I'll see you Thursday. Blind Flight with Trev, the Bourbon Wrench from Amy Bohm. I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.